We talked about simple random. Let's talk about systematic, stratified, and cluster. Sometimes, for some reason, you can't do simple random. You can still do random, one of these other types of random. Systematic is when you just start at some point and count by multiples of something. I'm going to pull every fifth wheel off the assembly line and check it. If I'm just counting by multiples of 5 or counting by multiples of anything, that's random because all the wheels were on the assembly line to begin with. But once I applied a method of choosing every fifth one, it's not simple random. Stratified, the two that are easiest to get confused are stratified and cluster because both of them involve groups. If you take a population and divide it into groups, and then you sample some from every group, that's stratified. If I divide the population of adults in the U.S. into women and men, and then I make sure to choose some women and some men, that's the definition of stratified. If I divide everything in my garden into fruits and vegetables, and I choose some fruits and choose some vegetables, that's stratified, picking some from every group. Cluster is different. Cluster, the population is also divided into groups, but then instead of taking some from every group, I'm just going to pick 3 groups and interview everybody in those 3 groups. For example, the state of Texas has 32 voting precincts. If I was trying to do some political poll and I interviewed, say, 5 people from all of those 32 precincts, what type of sampling would that be? I had 5 from every one of the precincts. That would be stratified. But I'm not going to get 5 from every precinct. I'm going to randomly pull out 3 precincts and then interview everybody in those 3 precincts. That's cluster. So, 2 kinds of non-random, voluntary and convenience. 4 kinds of random. If it's random, but it's not cluster, not stratified, and not systematic, there's only one thing it can be. Simple and nothing else. Simple random. There's a problem with the way that the directions are worded in the book. They did say identify which type of sampling is used. It didn't say random sampling, it just said sampling. And then random was one of the choices, and these were the other 4 choices. That doesn't make sense because simple is a kind of random. Systematic is a kind of random. So I changed the directions in the homework to say, these are all random. Which 4 of the random types are they? For example, the U.S. Department of Corrections collects data about returning prisoners by randomly selecting 5 federal prisons and surveying all of the prisoners in each of the prisons. Am I just going to yank out every 5th prisoner? Not systematic. Am I going to divide the prisoners into groups? The prisoners already are divided into groups. There's this prison and this prison and this prison and then this prison. If I was going to interview some people from every single one of the prisons, that would be what kind of sampling? No. Some from each. That's stratified. Is that what's going on here? I'm just going to pick 5 prisons and interview everybody in those 5 prisons. So what kind is that? That's cluster. Stratified is when if I went to every prison in the country and picked 5 people from each prison. Stratified, you have to be getting some people from every group. The Federal Mogul Company manufactures Champion brand spark plugs. The procedure for quality control is to test every 100th spark plug from the assembly line. What do you think? If I'm picking every 100th one, that's systematic. Systematic's pretty easy to identify. In a study of college programs, 820 students are randomly selected from those majoring in communications. 1,463 students are randomly selected from those majoring in business, and 760 students are randomly selected from those majoring in history. Is some kind of grouping going on? It's easy to group students by major. You know, put the communications majors over here, the business majors here, the history majors here, and make sure you get some of all three. What kind of sampling is that? That's stratified. Divide it into 3 groups and then get some of every group. That's stratified. The first one was cluster, because I'm picking 5 of the groups. I'm not getting some from every group. I'm picking 5 prisons and interviewing everybody in those 5 prisons. That is cluster.